Hello and welcome to the Sterling vs. Podcast, a roundtable media showcase for video game-based projects and other inspired creativity. I'm your host, Silva.
And I'm the second host, Azoo.
And I'm the third and probably the best one, Tony, or HybridCookie.
Yeah.
But, you could be nice to me.
It's all okay, guys. It is our first time because this is the new Sterling vs. Podcast. We are here to talk about many different things. But first, let me talk about you guys. Let me hear how you guys are doing this fine day.
I'm doing all right. I spent the whole day playing Sonic Adventure on Steam with mods. Never played it without. Yeah, that's been my day.
Huh.
My day has, I went to work, and now I'm here to do more work, though it's work I actually kind of enjoy. So, trade-offs.
That's good to hear. Now, Azoo, very interesting you were playing Sonic Adventure all day, because today, as a recording, I hate to date the episode, but it's such a special occasion.
That's right, everybody. It's a special occasion indeed. It's been 20 years since 9/9/99, y'all. It's the 20th anniversary of the Sega Dreamcast, the classic console that failed, but it was great, and I love it very much, and so do many other people. So today means a lot to me. So I've spent all of today playing Sonic Adventure for that reason, because Sonic Adventure was the main launch title for the Sega Dreamcast, and it's a very underappreciated game, I believe. Because of that, I decided to give it all the appreciation and love that it deserves, and spent about 12 hours straight just playing it, and playing it, and playing it.
You have definitely been putting it through the pages, because I know you've been talking about this game for at least the last couple of days. It feels like...
Yeah, true. I've been speedrunning it like crazy. I've always been like pretty alright at Adventure, but just today I decided to actually get down and like learn how to master the level design and even exploit some of the level layouts and like their automated sequences, and learn how to skip things and do all kinds of cool stuff, break through geometry. Who cares at this point? Why not? I mean, everybody likes to talk about how glitchy the game is, and have to hear that every second of the day. So you know what? If you can't beat them, join them, and then just play it better than them, and then laugh at them because they can't play as good as you, because they somehow just can't wrap their head around a game where the controls are only jump and spin dash. Anyways.
that sounded like we tore open a wound there, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's okay, because at the end of the day, it's still frankly, it's a good game.
Very good game.
But the whole thing that people forget is that games do come with flaws, and sometimes that's just a thing that happens. It's hard to really ignore the kind of impact that a game like Sonic Adventure has had just on the franchise as a whole.
Not just the franchise, talking about like the industry. People don't talk enough about how Sonic Adventure actually changed the game industry, and while that sounds really ridiculous, me saying that, by the way, just taking to note like what other games came out right after the wake of Sonic Adventure. We got like Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, Sly Cooper. These were all attempts made by like Sony's Western Studios for the PlayStation 2. And they weren't just like your standard platformers like Mario. No, they were trying to mend together a platformer game with an action-adventure title and introduce more narrative and story push and try to make the world look more lived in. And I'm not entirely sure if like some of these games would have completely gone in that direction if not for Sonic Adventure introducing the idea of mixing a platformer with those elements. Like maybe Jak and Daxter would have, because they seemed influenced more by Zelda and GTA, but the other two,
I will say, it's when I seriously like sit down and think about it, I definitely don't remember anything, because like the 3D platformers I grew up with, like I was a Nintendo boy, so it was like I had Mario, I had Banjo-Kazooie and Tooie, I had DK64, I played other games that happened to be there like Gex and Glover, and it's like there's only it comes to a certain point where they aren't quite doing like what the Sonic Adventure thing was, with multiple characters, the overlapping narrative and everything kind of coming together, and just the action adventure story.
Big hub worlds that all interconnect and create it's so different from everything else. The only thing that I would say from Nintendo's side of it that was anywhere near similar was maybe Banjo-Tooie, but we don't talk about Tooie, so...
What about Rayman 2?
Oh, well, huh. Rayman 2 is kind of...
I mean, from what I remember, it's definitely a lot more interconnected than something like Mario 64 was, but not like in the hub world sense. But there was definitely a more serious, overarching like story that was being told throughout the series.
And Rayman 2 also is like it's very big on its presentation and cinematic qualities, and its level design is very much based around cinematics. So I can actually see the parallels between that and Sonic Adventure, but I don't know if that had as much to do with it. I don't know. It's something I've never really thought about, even though you think I would have. Rayman 2 is one of my favorite games of all time, just like Sonic Adventure is, so I don't know why I haven't put 2 and 2 together on that before, honestly.
Well, I think it might also have a lot to do with the release date. Was Rayman 2 even out when Sonic Adventure was?
Rayman 2 actually came out afterward. It came out in 2000.
Okay, fair.
It could have pulled some influence from it, but probably not too much, since like they already were like far into working on it whenever they were making it. So and whenever they released Sonic Adventure, I mean, is what I was trying to say. Mm-hmm. And I mean, they could have looked at it from '98 when it was released in Japan. But I don't know. Hard to say.
I will say one of the things that because other games like on Sony's side that we're doing, like I've never played Ratchet and Clank, but I have played Jak and Daxter. Mm-hmm. I could not stomach the second game, and I hardly know beans about the third game. Versus something like Sly Cooper, which I played all 3 games. They're all very lovely, very actiony, very stylized, good stories. And I didn't think about the fact that they may have taken, at the very least, just the general nod of what the Sonic Adventure games have done, and just did what they could to stand out.
Right, because we saw what Mario did for like platformers of the later 90s, early 2000s. We got Banjo, and we got Donkey Kong 64, and we got Spyro, and we got Glover, and we got all these other titles that were pulling from like the same formula, But I think people tend to forget that Sonic was an influence at that time, because Sonic was always considered second only to Mario,
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't until we started getting to like Heroes and Shadow and 06 that people started like raising their eyebrows a bit. Because as far as I was able to tell, I mean, dude, like I didn't grow up with the Dreamcast. It was Nintendo. I had a PS2, but I mean, even that I didn't venture out all that much. And then when the GameCube came out, lo and behold, shocker, surprise, Sonic Mega Collection, Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Adventure DX, and then the Game Boy Advance games, Advance 1, 2, 3, Sonic Rush, like all these Sonic games that I adore to this day just kind of spawned from a period of time where people took Sonic as seriously as Mario back then.
Sonic was an actual huge gaming icon. Like people thought Sonic to be that big and important. Like it was a huge influence on the gaming industry. And whenever Sonic came back from the dead, basically, with Sonic Adventure, people weren't turning a blind eye to it, even though the Dreamcast didn't sell as much as the PS2 or even other consoles that came after it. Like, people were still like staring right at it because Sonic just put himself in the spotlight right there in the center, and people were there to look at it because people thought Sonic Adventure was a good game back then.
CGI cutscenes and story and hub worlds and just all these crazy levels with the loops and everything.
And it was super ambitious, but it wasn't just that. The game's good.
Yeah.
People liked it because it was like, it was fast, it was arcadey, it was a fun platformer game. Sure, it has like bugs, but all kinds of games from that time had bugs. Have you ever played Tomb Raider from 1999 again? Have you ever played a Resident Evil game from 1999 again? Have you ever played any game that wasn't made by Nintendo EAD in 1999 again?
and here's the thing too. It's a thought that I have to have because occasionally I think about it. It's like judging a video game like quality is such a difficult thing to do. People, I think, kind of forget and or completely ignore the kind of situation that they put themselves in. It's like, yes, I can pull up Mario Odyssey on my Switch right now, play it, and be like, this is a really good game. They really improved on a bunch of stuff. It looks beautiful, hardly any glitches, if any at all, polished, very good, whatever, right out the door. I loved it. And then I can turn around and look at Sonic Adventure and try to judge it with the same merits and qualifications as a game that's built upon all the experience of the last 20 years. and be like, oh yeah, this is totally can be judged on the same merit. Yeah, this game sucks. It's like, that's not how that works.
It isn't how it works. I mean, people tend to forget that Sonic Adventure, it came out in Japan literally the same year as Ocarina of Time.
Uh-huh.
The same year as Ocarina of Time, guys.
Yeah.
That's the standard we're following here. And as much as you may like to believe it, like Ocarina of Time, even made by Nintendo EAD, just like Mario 64 and Star Fox 64 and all the other Sterling games, Sterling, from the later 90s were, they got their own glitches and problems too, you know?
Yeah. You the game is only as good as like the equipment and everything that was available at the time. It's like Sonic Adventure was a good game and it has flaws, but they did what they could with the technology that was available back then. You can't take a game like that and compare it to the standards of today when they're both from two completely different eras of time. Yeah. And I think video games is kind of really the only media that really has to worry about something like that. Movies, there's something to be said about the consistency of like cinematography and storytelling and things like that. Yes, right. You could, with not counting like CGI, obviously, but with like a general narrative, how well it tells a story, a 3-act structure, whatever you want to call it, you know, a black and white movie from back then that held up back then and still holds up now, you could probably compare it to the storytelling, like, quality or whatever of a movie that came out in today's time or whatever. There's not, aside from graphical quality, there's not really a whole lot that changes as far as the state of media is concerned.
Right, because all it's about is about cinematography and storytelling. That's completely different.
You have set standards that hardly ever change versus video games where everything is always changing. Every day there's something changing.
That's right, because it's not just a thing that you're intaking and looking at, you're controlling it. It's not just a film, it's a computer program, guys. Mm-hmm. Like, it's gonna have its problems and it's gonna have its perks, and that's just how it works. A bit far off the topic of the Dreamcast and just talked about Sonic Adventure itself.
You know,
get back to talking about actual like Dreamcast.
Welcome to the Sonic Adventure podcast. We love Sonic Adventure.
That's right.
We just talk about this game all the time and nothing else.
Happy birthday, Sonic Adventure! I love you so much. Please, I love you. Please, if you're listening, I just want you to know I care about you so much. And after I'm done with this podcast, I'm going to go and play you for another 3 hours. That's just how it goes.
No, they've got a date tonight. Now, about the the Dreamcast, I was actually taking a look at earlier. Like the physical machine, I have 1 or 2, or 3 on hand. I just love the machine so dang much. I was actually reorganizing my entertainment setup, and I had the Dreamcast to the side. It's not hooked up or anything. It's not currently used, but it is a beautiful thing. And I'd have to say the same for its controllers. Its controllers are this. Man, I think Azoo has quite a bit to say about it, but we'll save that for another time.
I don't know. Do we need to? I want to talk about it.
But no, that's okay. Here's the deal. Controllers, that's episode 2.
Yeah.
We have our segment about the actual thing.
I'll hold back.
Stop. Tony, keep him under control. I'm gonna talk about this controller.
Can I talk about? Can I just agree with you?
Yes.
Can I
you
just
have 2 minutes.
You're allowed to.
You have 2 minutes.
All right. All right, I just wanted to say I absolutely agree that the Dreamcast is a wonderful little box. Isn't it just a cute little thing? I love how it's shaped, and I love the color schemes that they chose for it. Like, I just want to say probably my favorite color scheme for any console ever, if it isn't indigo, is gonna be that nice eggshell white with a warm gray accent, and that's exactly what the Dreamcast goes for. And they top it off with a nice orange LED light to go with it. And there's something about those colors that come together and make such a warm, inviting color scheme. And the shape of the controller as well as the console itself evokes this kind of retro-futuristic mindset that they were going with around 1998, 1999. They really wanted you to believe this was the future, but it was the future through the angle of how the 90s saw the future, which was weird a bit because the way that the 90s saw the future was kind of a bastardization of how they thought that the 60s and 70s saw the future. So it's like through the looking glass of that future. It's a lot, but it's very smart design because of how much it's taking into mind there. And I adore its aesthetics and everything about it. The BIOS is just it's probably one of the most unique BIOSes out of any of the consoles. Just the way it starts up, that water dripping sound, and the way that the text appears on the screen one by one and then starts to swirl in the middle. And it echoes through your mind and then sits there and you hear the loud whirring and clicking of the Dreamcast because that was loud. But
and this and all can be yours for 6 weekly payments of $99.95. Trav, you know those little music tracks that play whenever they're showing off a car at a game show or something like that? I hope you've been playing that for the last 2.5 minutes because that's exactly what just happened.
Look, I love the Dreamcast, and can we actually talk about its games for a bit so that I don't go on a huge tangent talking about the controller, which will be saved for another day.
Tell me more about these games that are not Sonic Adventure. Please enlighten me. Enlighten us all.
Okay, all right.
I beg you, don't talk about Sonic Adventure anymore.
Okay, all right. Sonic Adventure 2 for the Sega Dreamcast. No. That's basically a GameCube game. So let's segue away from that. And let's talk about Sonic Shuffle, baby. That's right, Sonic. No.
Oh my god, I forgot that one was a thing.
Nah, so you tell them about Sonic Shuffle. Tell everybody about Sonic Shuffle.
Actually, I've never played Sonic Shuffle. I've seen it in action, kind of. But the only thing I really appreciate is just all the little card art that they have for Eggman doing all kinds of crazy, wild things. He's just everywhere, man. He's in a park on a bench reading a newspaper. He's in a suit. He's in a marching band. He's a bizarre shopkeep. He's all kinds of things, and it's great.
Silva, give him the lowdown.
So Sonic Shuffle is a Mario Party-esque party game starring Sonic characters. It takes place in Imaginary World, which is the world of dreams. Totally not a ripoff of Nights. If anything, I feel like it's an homage. The whole story setup.
It's lore. They're connecting it. It's lore. Nightopia, Imaginary World. Same thing.
Yeah,
lore.
Basically. I mean, there's a hidden Easter egg in which Knights will appear in cutscenes I think you have to set the Dreamcast of December 25th, and Knights is just there. I've never been able to trigger it.
That's so.
But
so it might be one of those tips and tricks tips that wasn't true.
Yeah, no. It's true. It was but I haven't seen it because I read this way back before people decided to actually embed pictures into the web pages these cheats were posted on. This is a very old thing. I haven't tried it because it's very hard to just boot it up and get that working. I mean, I could try, but fact of the matter is, it was a very good looking game. I love the story. Traveling to this dream world where things don't completely make sense, and all the stages are kind of loosely based on each of the characters, and they're traveling through these game boards, doing these mini games. It's very fun. As someone who has not really played Mario Party, this definitely satisfied that itch way back when. And as you mentioned, all the artwork for Eggman, all the artwork for everyone. I feel like that the 2D style they had going on was so it felt so good. I wish that was made into an anime.
It's excellent. The art in that game is excellent. It's it's that perfect point in, like, I think the Sonic series where they were still transitioning from classic Sonic to, like, modern Sonic as we know it, because they really landed on that, I think, by Adventure 2, you know?
Yeah.
But, like, Adventure and Shuffle are kind of in that transitionary period where they're still doing classic-esque stuff. It has that spacey Dreamcast vibe, but it also has that classic Sega vibe going out throughout it with, like, electronic music and just jazzy tracks, jazzy hip-hop type sounds, and just really, really cartoony artwork and cutscene art. Like, the artwork in Shuffle is fantastic. I love the way they're drawn in those images and stuff. It's kind of like they were in that transitionary period between Saturn era Sonic and modern quote unquote Sonic, and I really do love Adventure 1 and Shuffle's aesthetic decisions because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a fun fact about Sonic Shuffle, by the way. It was made by Hudson Soft. That's right, the same people that actually made Mario Party.
That's really funny.
That's right.
Yeah, they got, I think, if I remember right, they got in trouble with Nintendo about that one. Yeah, that might be why we didn't get a Sonic Shuffle 2, because, they made Mario Parties, the first couple Mario Parties, and they made Sonic Shuffle, and then Nintendo was like, dude... It's like, I'm just following the money.
Now, granted, I do appreciate that Sonic and the Secret Rings and Sonic and the Black Knight both featured minigame modes that I had a Sonic Shuffle vibe from that, especially from these two games that had like a lot of like the cutscenes.
The idea of being transported into an imaginary world, that's
that, and a lot of the artwork being in 2D, and that being like the best part of it, because all that looked really good and really like fun to watch.
Now that you mention it, you might be onto something there. Like that, maybe Sonic Team internally was thinking of those games being kind of like spiritual successors to the concept that Sonic Shuffle had to offer a little bit, because that is quite a bit of things they had in common between the two. That's cool.
Yeah, and that's honestly, like, I wasn't in love with those games, but those were definitely redeeming qualities of that game. Little nice touches. I mean, with the lack of, like, I feel like with the adventure games having their Chow Garden, these two storybook games had their mini games where you could play as a bunch of characters. Even if they weren't necessarily featured in the story, it was less forced. You could just play as these characters. It's just there. And that was fun. Yeah. I feel like that was a very fun mode. And I think if there was a way to just relive that with some folks, that would be great, because I think that was highly overlooked.
Yeah, Sonic Shuffle is a very overlooked game, and to be honest, it's one of the Sonic games I've played the least, and that says a lot, considering I've played a lot of these games, and Sonic Shuffle is one of the ones that I've barely touched, which I've said is a shock.
Well, one of these days we gotta see if we can figure out something and play together.
We do gotta find out a way to play it, and I imagine we can work out something, but that's for another time. Get back on the subject of other Dreamcast games that are not about Sonic the Hedgehog, because there's only 3 of them, and the fact that we've wasted so much time talking about only those 3 is baffling. But anyways, the Sega Dreamcast is a wonderful library of games, and I'll go ahead and start popping off about some of them right now. We have Phantasy Star Online and Phantasy Star Online version 2. Have either of you played PSO?
I have not. I know a lot of people really want the second one.
Same.
And that's about as far as I go. I think it's supposed to be, from my perspective, it seemed like just a very, the anime-inspired MMO RPG.
So now that you mention that, I can actually make my claim. My biggest beef I have with PSO2. I can pop it right now. All right. That's my problem with PSO2. The original art style of PSO looks so excellent. It's got that classic Sonic Team style to it. It's that weird art style mixture where it's like a little bit of anime, a little bit of rubber hose cartoon, and a little bit of realism all at the same time. This really bizarre art style that Sonic Team liked to use in like the later 90s and early aughts. And and it's this crazy, weird sci-fi fantasy world that they present in PSO. And while PSO, the original game, doesn't look and play what seems to be nearly as fun as what the sequel plays like, the art style is so much better. The new one looks like a moe anime, and I'm not a fan of that. It feels like it lost all of its style, and I think part of that has to do with the fact that I don't think Sonic Team made PSO2, so that might have something to do with it.
It also may not help that when the game first came out, PSO2, I'm pretty sure that anime style was just kind of like a lot more of a thing in its time period.
Yeah, it was at its peak in popularity, then it sure was.
So it's like, it's going to stay looking like that because it was made during the time in which it was supposed to look like that.
It's a shame. It's just a shame, because if it kept looking like PSO1, but like evolved the art style rather than just straight up changing it to look like that, I feel like it could have been so much more interesting, and that's why I haven't been as interested in PSO2.
I mean, radically changing art styles like that for the sake of keeping up with the times is the reason that something like Bomberman X-Zero exists.
Yeah, but of course that was an example of it not working, and PSO2 is an example of it actually working.
Fair enough. I'll give them that.
So a lot of people aren't fazed at all by PSO2's art style change, but I am, because I'm very big on aesthetics. But regardless, PSO1, I haven't played too much of it. I played it a long time ago on my cousin's Dreamcast, the one that eventually got handed down to me after a few years when they realized they didn't want it anymore and wanted to play GameCube. And I played it then. Not too much, though, because most of the gameplay is for online. Recently, I started playing it again on the GameCube, but it's a good game. I really enjoy playing PSO, and if there's anything to know about Phantasy Star Online, it's that it's considered one of the most revolutionary games of the later 90s and of the early 2000s, and we have a lot to thank Sonic Team for again with that game, because it was the first console game to be like a real, like, massive online experience. It was the first game of its kind, and other games would eventually follow. And of course, you could play online games on PC through like Diablo and Quake and all kinds of stuff before, but this was the first time that was an actual like thing. Like the Sega Dreamcast was very big about being like a harbinger for the future. They put a built-in like broadband like modem adapter inside of the back of the console that you can plug in, and it was the first console to really go forward with online services more than just something way out of the way. Because, you know, there was things like Satellaview for the SNES and Sega Channel for the Genesis. Those had already existed.
I remember Sega Channel.
Yeah, so those had already existed. But those were out of the way. You had to buy like the peripheral for the thing, and then you had to like pay for the whatever thing, and you know, all of that. But this was built into the console, and this was really a first. And it's kind of like its sister console, the Xbox, kind of picked up where it left off by having a built-in like DSL modem, and that's whenever online gaming really kicked off, was under Xbox with Halo and stuff. But you know, like Sega, had they not fallen out of the console race, probably would have been the people to pick up the torch with the FPSs and move that all forward, because Microsoft worked close with Sega during their time they were still in the console race. But that is also for another day, because I have a whole tangent about that one.
There's a lot of things to have for another day.
There's a lot to talk about with the Sega Dreamcast, but yeah, we really have to give Sonic Team props for making the first full-fledged console game to have online capabilities, and it had like a full like system where you could send basic messages to other people, even through different language barriers and etc. Sonic Team had actually built in an auto-translate system for some of your like things that you would like send to and from them. It would auto-translate it into their native language, so you could actually play with people from Japan and far into Europe and everywhere else like that with non-English speaking residents. It was really something. Whenever I was reading up about it, I was really impressed with what PSO was able to do for its time. And when watching gameplay of it, I was just thinking, this game is sick. I really wish I could have played this proper whenever it was at its height. But, the Dreamcast wasn't at its height for long.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have other games that were released on the console. You have Crazy Taxi.
I played that one in the arcades.
Yeah, that was one of the big focuses of the Sega Dreamcast. Whenever they first started to market it and then release it, they were like, yeah, this console is going to be able to play the arcade experience that you get from like our Sega Naomi arcade boards. You're going to be able to get that perfect in your home theater setup. And so that was like the main push for the Sega Dreamcast, by having an arcade port, a perfect arcade port of Crazy Taxi onto the console. And it looks just like the arcade version, like exactly like it.
I believe it.
And Soul Calibur was released first and foremost for the Dreamcast. And Soul Calibur is fantastic. I could go on forever about Soul Calibur. It's probably my favorite fighting game series.
It's certainly the most interesting to look at, next to something that I like with a little more flash and flare, like Smash Brothers.
I just love it because swords.
Yeah, I mean there are hardly all that many like sword fighting. I think there's a samurai based one that's coming out soon.
Yeah, Samurai Showdown. That was an old game. And they just released a new one. Yeah. And I know they're bringing that one back recently, but usually it's all about melee fighting and things like that. So to have something like Soul Calibur, bring weapons of that nature into the game is interesting. It's fun to watch. Right. Yeah.
And then later on we ended up getting Link in Soul Calibur 2, which that was really weird at first, but
that was dope. It was great. That's the main thing that got me into Soul Calibur.
Can I talk about a game? I know a game.
Yes.
I've never played this, but I've watched somebody play it for like 5 minutes. It has rhythm, and it has Michael Jackson, I think, and also space, and it is Space Channel 5. I know about that one.
Yes. Okay, what you're mentioning there, the one with MJ, is Part 2, actually, which was only... Wait, no? It was released on Dreamcast. Part 2 was released on Dreamcast, but only in Japan and Europe, I think. I don't think it got an American release.
Which is weird, because I remember seeing advertisements for it.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
But Part 2 was released on the PS2 internationally.
Okay.
That's where it got most of its play from. But the first one was released primarily on Dreamcast. I haven't played very much of Space Channel 5 either, but aesthetically, I adore it, okay? Space Channel 5 is awesome.
It looks very good.
And the music is made by Sonic Team vets. God, the music is so good.
Oh, that's another thing. Just a little tiny thing. Sega just always seems to know how to kick it out of the park with music. There's very rare instances in which this is not always true, but I can at least comfortably say 9 times out of 10.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a hand for Wave Master. Everybody, give a hand for Wave Master. Thank you for that single hand.
Good. And Trav, can you take this clap and just multiply it by 1,000? Thanks, man.
This is a podcast.
This is a podcast. But yes.
Sorry. Sorry, I'm hopping around now because I thought of another one. I thought of another good one. Another one that's stylized and fancy and has maracas and a monkey. I'm talking about Samba de Amigo. I think that's the one's on the Dreamcast.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Samba de Amigo. Okay, look, I gotta say something about Samba de Amigo. I'm a little disappointed in Samba de Amigo, and that's not to say it's a bad game. It's not. I'm just a little bit disappointed because those character designs are so excellent, and the art style is sick. It looks amazing. Fun fact, just to tell you real quick, that artwork is not by Yuji Yukawa, in case you were wondering. That artwork is actually done by another guy. I gotta find him. He's on Twitter now. He did some of the artwork for SA1 as well, and he did the artwork for the Japanese cover of Sonic 3D Blast. It's that same artist that did all of those. And he was saying that while Yuji Yukawa was the designer for Samba and everybody, he was the main illustrator that drew Amigo and everybody for the cover and all the instruction manual and everything. Anyways, Samba, the Amigo, looks great. The main theme is super catchy. I was hoping and dreaming that it was going to be a Parappa the Rapper type game with a full storyline and everything that you followed through and did rhythms with maracas, It's not. It's you load up the game and there's songs that you shake the maracas to, and that's all.
I find it very funny that years down the line, Sonic Pinball Party tried their best to replicate this with the fucking just hit the pinball paddles in time with the great music coming out of that tiny little speaker there.
I love the Game Boy Advance. It sounds poopy. What a good little thing.
I will give credit where it's due. The Sonic like Dimps and them, they did the best with the instrumentations that they've got at the time.
They really did.
Those are some really well written tracks and everything. It's just, man, the sound quality is not.
It's not great, but they really did make the best of it in Advance 1 and 2, and okay, maybe just Advance 1 and 2.
No, Advance 3 had some bangers in there. Sonic Battle...
It did, but it kind of whined at you, really. I feel like Advance 3 was like Advance 1 and 2, but it was also loud and scratchy like Battle was, and that's where I'm kind of in the middle.
Yeah, that's sort of where they were going, and also I think it's partially because they may have just been getting burnt out. I'll be real. Sonic Advance 2 had a lot more polish than Sonic Advance 3. I could tell the Sonic Advance 3 was rough around the edges for absolute damn sure.
Tony.
Yo.
We're talking about Sonic again.
Dude, you started the conversation about Sonic Adventure. You don't even get the point of it. You're like, Tony, what are you doing?
We were trying to get back to the Dreamcast games to talk about
guys, we gotta loop back on topic.
So, like a ping pong paddle, I'm knocking that ball back over to Samba de Amigo, which had great things.
It had stuff. I don't know what to much say about Samba de Amigo. Like I played it for a short period of time whenever I got it, and I was like, I was hoping for it to be more, and it wasn't, and I was kind of upset. But I still got to see him dance to "Livin' La Vida Loca" because that is in the game.
I'm so sad that the Wii re-release wasn't really that great either, and that it came with such a great CGI open cutscene.
I think I saw that ages ago. Huh.
It was so good. It was the cutscene that made me want the game, because I never played on the Dreamcast, and then I got it, and then the Wii said, "Hi, I'm a Wii."
Yeah, here's my bet. They should make a new Samba de Amigo game, but if they're going to make a new one, they should probably make a story for it so you feel like you're getting your money's worth out of the characters and stuff. You know, that would be
something, anything.
Please, because I mean, and fill the void that because we no longer have games like Parappa anymore.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like if you're going to bring Samba back, you might as well do that with it. You know, I miss Parappa, guys.
Yeah, I never got to play Parappa either, but I recognize its style a whole lot.
I love Parappa so much.
Hang on. What else on what else
came out on Dreamcast? I think we're missing one.
I know we're missing one. Like, it's at the back of my mind. Yeah, that one. I love this game's soundtrack. I am not very good at the game.
Jet Set Radio, baby. Look, JSR is a great game. And by a great game, I mean the sequel.
Wow.
But the sequel came out on a different console, so we can't talk about that.
It did. No, we could absolutely talk about JSRF, but not today. Just someday. I love JSRF so much. The first game, Jet Set Radio, or Jet Grind Radio in the US, I'm not sure why they changed the name of it then, I don't know. But Jet Set Radio on the Dreamcast, it's got, like, its aesthetics and music and character designs and everything are unforgettable. It's amazing atmosphere that they set up for it, the mood, all the music in it, it's fantastic. I love the character designs, I love the setup for it and everything.
It is good.
You got like characters like Gum and Beat, and you have Corn, or what they called Corn in that game?
I don't remember.
And you got Captain Onishima and the Lukaku plant and all that. It was just all these really great characters. And just,
DJ was like my jam.
DJ Professor K! Love that guy. Like, I love Jet Set Radio, and everything about it except kind of the gameplay.
The gameplay is so, like, okay, I don't know how much may have changed between when they came out with the Dreamcast and when they've re-released it, like, everywhere else. I have a copy of the game on Steam. Mm-hmm. I install it every so often. I try to play it, and I'm like, man, I really love what I can maybe get to do if it actually agreed with me. I can never get the game to actually do what I want to, and yet it looks so fun.
JSR is a really clunky game, and that's not to say it's a bad game. It's fun. I will say the Steam version is way better than the Dreamcast version. I played it on Dreamcast just a couple months ago. I couldn't get past level 2. It was very frustrating. The difficulty has actually been brought down a good bit for the Steam re-release, and that is because there was a re-release made for the Dreamcast in Japan only called De La Jet Set Radio, which changed the difficulty curve and changed object placement in the game. It was only released in Japan. That version is what they used to make Jet Set Radio for Steam. So
gotcha.
That version has better object placement and is generally an easier game. They're much more forgiving with like health and spray paint cans and everything. And which is something I noticed immediately when I started playing the Steam version.
Yeah.
Because the Dreamcast version is a tough game. And the biggest problem with it is that there's such little control of your character, especially on the Dreamcast version, because you don't have any camera controls. There is no right stick, which is a plus for Jet Set Radio on Steam. It has full right analog stick control, so the camera isn't an issue like it is on the Dreamcast version. The first Jet Set Radio game, generally, its biggest problem is that they tried to set the camera center button, the L trigger, to be the spray paint button at the same time. Not a very good idea, because it overlaps really bad in the mix for a lot of different areas. It makes it really tough to spray and like center your camera and everything, and just it's a clunky game, but I can't hate it because first of all, everything else about the game is wonderful, and I still want to continue through and complete the game properly. And the other reason why I have to forgive it is because the sequel, Jet Set Radio Future, improves its controls. Not tenfold, but 100-fold.
If 100-fold was a thing.
It is a fantastic game. Yes, it is a fantastic game. It has its own problems and difficulty, like spikes and etc. But personally, I would play Future any day of the week over the original, if not for one thing getting in the way of that. And I think it's that I kind of like the aesthetics of the first game a little bit better than Future. But that's
what I hear from other people.
That's almost like negligible because both of them have extremely strong aesthetics and atmospheres to them and fantastic soundtracks. So that's like to compare the two, it's like talking about two things that are generally like aesthetically like 9 to 10 out of 10. Like you're just comparing your preferences at that point. Both of them are excellent in that regard. So personally, I would say if you ever got the chance to play Jet Set Radio Future ever, I would recommend it. The best way to play it right now is through Xbox emulation because that's actually becoming a thing, and I've been playing it through that recently.
I have, because I was going to say they have never re-released that game, have they?
They haven't, and people have been begging for it for years, and I'm one of those people that's been begging for it. I want JSRF on Steam so bad. When that thing drops, I'm on it day zero.
that is a thing that is just something that we have to deal with. It's like, especially when it comes to things like GameCube games. Mm-hmm. You know, GameCube games, some of Xbox games, like games that just, this is a conversation for another day, but I think it's incredibly disappointing that we're reaching a point in time where there is going to be just like a generation of game playing folk that won't get the chance to really see a particular point in time. Like we get NES and SNES and all this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
But like there's this middle section that's just completely neglected and ignored, and that upsets me a little bit.
The entire mid to later 90s is like a void at this point. Like who knows how long it's going to take before we start seeing like stuff get re-released in that. The fact that game preservation is such a hard thing to really talk about because of how games have always been made in this arbitrary fashion where you can only play it on one particular machine in one particular way, and that whenever that generation is long gone and they stop producing those games, how are you ever going to play them again? without them intentionally re-releasing them.
Yeah, how are we going to reference them just for historical value? How are we even going to look towards that?
There is no evergreen property to it.
It's upsetting how much of this industry is driven by people that say they love it so damn much, but don't love it enough to keep everything about it. They don't want to preserve anything about what made games. And that is that is upsetting, and also a discussion for another day, because I could go on tangents about that.
Other games that were released for the Sega Dreamcast include, but are not limited to, let's see, Choo Choo Rocket. That's one that's really big.
I know Choo Choo Rocket. I know that one.
So it was a little multiplayer game where you played as like a bunch of mice, yeah, and you got chased around by a cat.
There was like I think there was like a I don't know if it was a re-release or like a party version of the game that like I got to play a little bit of, and it was so fun.
It was.
Yeah, it was released on the Dreamcast and the Game Boy Advance. And PC too, I think.
It was also on the mobile for a limited time.
Was it?
Yeah.
It was also on the mobile.
Yeah.
That game was designed by Yuji Naka himself. They designed that game as a test.
That feels like it.
It has that Y2K aesthetic, and it feels just like a Sonic Team game because it is a Sonic Team game made in the Y2K era. Yeah, but it was made as a testing ground actually, because it is the actual first game on the Sega Dreamcast to utilize online. Yeah, you could play Choo Choo Rocket online with other people. It was their testing ground. They used that as their testing ground for PSO. So they released that, saw how people used it, and then implemented stuff in the PSO based on the reactions. So yeah,
that's really interesting.
And you could download like levels.
Yeah. There's Echo the Dolphin, Defender of the Future, which was Echo the Dolphin's only 3D game. That game is pretty sick. I gotta say, if you guys haven't heard of that game, you should check it out, especially if you like the other Echo the Dolphin games. That game is really cool. It has some really, really nice like visuals for its time, and has like these really accurate like swimming mechanics. It's sick. Let's see, Shenmue. Do I really need to say much more than Shenmue? I mean, if I did say much more about Shenmue, we would be here all night. And also,
that's right, Shenmue happened.
Shenmue did, in fact, happen. And it's a very big game, and it's definitely one of the biggest ones that the Dreamcast is known for. Other titles released on the Dreamcast are Power Stone and Power Stone 2. Those games rule, okay? If we ever got the chance to play those multiplayer, we would, okay? Those games are awesome. A bunch of fighting games like Marvel vs. Capcom, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Street Fighter Third Strike, Virtua Fighter, I can't remember the name of that one on there. Was it SNK versus I don't know. What was it? Rival Schools was on there, called Project Justice on there. I had that game. A couple other titles, a bunch of fighting games on there, and they're all really cool. Techromancer, a game literally called LOL.
Good.
It actually is called Loss of Love. It's it's a life simulator similar to Spore, made by a Japanese development team. It was only released in Japan, but I got to play it recently, and that is very strange. My kind of game, for sure. Rez is amazing. Just go look up Rez. Whoever's listening, go look up Rez. I can't describe it to you. You got to look at it. Let's see, other titles released for the Dreamcast. Of course, Rayman 2 was on there. Skies of Arcadia. How did I forget about you? Oh God, have either of you played Skies of Arcadia?
No.
I have not. I know that I only know as much as I do about Skies of Arcadia because of two things. One, because Transformed Racing had like one of the best race tracks based around that game.
Yep.
And two, a music dude that I follow, Skyrocket, that was just like his jam and was a huge inspiration for a lot of his earlier stuff.
Oh, Skyrocket's great. Shout out to Sky. Hi, Sky.
I found out about it. Sky is still great.
Shouts out.
Hi, Sky. Also, but yeah. Skies of Arcadia. That game rules. I did not get incredibly far in it. I got about like halfway. Back when I played it several years ago, but I love that game. That game is amazing. There's just an endless list of amazing games released for the Sega Dreamcast. Well, not quite endless, but it almost feels like it because Dreamcast, for some reason, inspired the developers that worked on it to really push the envelope and make the most creative games they could come up with for that time. And they really were thinking from the angle of this is do or die time. When the Sega Dreamcast came out, Sega kind of knew, like the writing was on the wall, that if they didn't do well with this console, they had to drop out of the console race. So a lot of the developers, I'm pretty sure, were thinking we really just got to give it our all and put out the best work we can possibly do. And God, did they. The Dreamcast is filled with amazing games, a wonderful library, and I really wish it would have continued onward. And there are a few games that were originally made for the Dreamcast that ended up getting released as titles outward and otherwise, like, for example, Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg, and ToeJam and Earl 3. What was the name of that game? It was a 3D ToeJam and Earl game that not many people talk about. Anyways...
I thought I used to know it, but I don't.
Yeah, the creator of ToeJam and Earl still likes and respects that game, so I hear and stuff. Apparently it's an underappreciated title. It's like the black sheep of the series. A couple of other titles were originally for it. Shenmue 2 was originally for it. Space Channel 5 Part 2 was originally for it. And a couple other games that I can't think of off the top of my head. But Jet Set Radio Future was one of them. Yeah. Why did I forget that? Out of all of them. But yeah, a lot of the games that were made around like the span of 2001 to 2003 or 4 by Sega were originally games meant to be released for that console. Panzer Dragoon Orta. Yeah, what was going to be the only Panzer Dragoon game for the console never even happened on the console, and instead happened on Xbox, where no one played it because nobody who was interested in Japanese-styled games bought an Xbox.
Well,
whoops. Same with JSRF. I'm cursed to that forever. Not to diss on the Xbox, I do love it. I love you, Halo. But, yeah, the Dreamcast, a wonderful little box from the future, made of dreams. And it never got a Knights game. God. Anyways.
Well, we eventually got one.
We did. Knights Journey of Dreams for the Wii. But that, my friends, is another story. Silva, take it away.
Alrighty, folks. Thanks for joining us on our premiere episode of the brand new season of 2019 for the Sterling vs. Podcast.
You're welcome.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, my co-hosts, for joining me. Thank you, the audience, for listening. All the people we mentioned on the show, from the game designers to the musicians, all of you, we thank you for creating some very good games for us to play and some very great memories to remember. Thank you, Dreamcast, for existing. Thank you, Sega, for doing your best with that console.
Yeah, thank you, Sega, for doing your best. This is absolutely not a sponsored episode, by the way, but if we were sponsored, we'd be sponsored by Squarespace. Squarespace is what? No.
One day.
You're going to say Squaresoft.
I thought he was. One day. But no, really.
No, they're not. They don't exist anymore.
We could bring them back. But I want everyone to look forward to more of what we got in store for you guys. There's plenty more episodes. We're sorry this has been such a long wait, but we wanted to make this as good as we can get it to be. And on top of that, we are planning streams. Look forward to that soon. There's a lot of content coming, but we really wanted to focus on making a well put together podcast and bring it to you as soon as possible. And we know it's already September, but have no worries. We have more coming out. You can go to sterlingversus.media for links to all our content channels and socials. These guys' socials will also be linked somewhere in the description attached to wherever this podcast is hosted. So we'll make sure to get you all connected with us and fill you in on updates and news and all that. Be sure to follow, share this, please.
Smash that like button, smash the subscribe button. Don't forget to click the little bell in the corner to make sure you get notifications for
Can we get 10 and a third likes?
Thank you.
We get 10 and a third likes. I'm gonna eat an apple.
We're 3 people. I'll like it.
Yay! We got the
third.
So down the likes. I don't really like apples all that much. Anyway, stay tuned for more, of course. And Azoo.
Yes.
Do you have a final tweet to take us out on?
Oh, so we're just straight up Mabembam in this ending, huh?
I need a real banger. Just something.
Do I have a tweet?
I mean, okay, well, here, why don't we just... here's a good one. Nabrock.rock at nabrockrock.com. Actually, that's a Twitter handle. You go over there, there's a picture of Woody in Sonic Adventure pose there.
Yeah.
He just kind of did it for today.
I appreciate
great.
mentioning a visual-based tweet on an audio-based podcast, but I'll take it. The effort, I appreciate it very much. So you guys go check them out.
Well, I mean, I told them where to find it. They can just look for it.
Yeah.
This is the internet.
Yeah,
The possibilities are endless.
We're leaving the work. Listen, we're all budget over here. You guys could do the work. The audience, that is. Go to Nibrock, NIBROCROCK. At Twitter.com. There's not a .com.
Okay, speak slow enough so they can write it down. Make sure you had your scratch paper out.
Yeah, write it down. Then go to your local internet and find him on Twitter. He makes good stuff.
Go to the Google.
Go to the Googles and find Twitters. Catch some Twitters. They're like in a cave.
By the way, I'm just going to go ahead and point out the hilarity of the fact that we're just telling people to go to Nabrockrock's Twitter, but we're not talking about where to find us.
You'll find us sterlingversus.media. We've got a YouTube, a Facebook, a Twitter. I think we have a SoundCloud. I'm working on it. We have a Twitch, right? Twitch, Sterling versus Media on Twitch. Follow there. Is that what it is? Anyway, follow all of that so you can get our latest tweets.
Follow, subscribe,
get our latest episodes, our latest tweets, our latest updates, our latest news, and our streams. Streams are very important. Those are coming back. We talked a lot about Jet Set Radio. I previously played that on the channel. All footage was lost, so look forward to me playing that again, but on the PS3.
Look forward to losing the footage again.
I swear to goodness.
That's right.
According to Azoo, it's a brand new game, so I'm counting it. I'm gonna play it fresh. It's gonna be like it's a new game to me, so I'm gonna play that soon. And look forward to whatever else these guys can cook up, because we're all a group. It's a group team effort. It's gonna be so good. I'm excited. I'm rambling because I'm so excited for the show. I know these guys are excited. They tell me off air all the time. They're like, Silva, please tell me when are we gonna record? We gotta make some good stuff. And I'm like, hold on, we'll get to it. And now we're getting to it. So I'm really excited. And that's about it.
If anyone cares to look in my direction, I do art on the side. Twitter's Tony Caline, TonyCaline. But if you want to watch video gameplays, I'm starting to get the Twitch myself. Tones McGroan, spelled exactly as you think it sounds like. TONES, Mick, GROANS. And I'll play just about anything, really. Whatever suits my boat, floats my suit, whatever. Azoo, you're up.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Azookara, which is AZOOKARA. And I also have a Tumblr. Well, I did. It's an art Tumblr. It's ancient. I haven't updated it in a long time. Anyways, I mostly do art. I'm a character designer, story artist, etc. But you'll mostly.
He's damn good at it too.
Yeah, shut your mouth. Anyways, most of my stuff is me rambling about video games and music that I really like. But I'm gonna spend some time also like working on like things such as a cartoon pitch that I've been working on for a long time, and that's what you'd mostly find on my twit, but sometimes you'll see me ramble about things that I've rambled about in here in this past episode, and much more, but mostly just Sonic and Dreamcast, surprisingly. Not surprisingly.
Not surprisingly at all.
So, anyways, yeah, that's how you can get a hold of me, I suppose.
And if any of you have had trouble spelling any of that, I will include all links in the description.
If you didn't have your pens and papers ready, I'm sorry, but we told you.
Yeah.
We told you.
Oh.
We asked you to be ready.
The URLs have disappeared into the ether. You can no longer access them. I'm so sorry. But just for you, I'll recapture them into... Just for you, I'll recapture them into textual form, and you'll find it below on the side, wherever it may be. So you can follow these guys today. Don't miss your chance.
Order in the next 20 minutes, and you'll be able to get a free towel, absolutely free.
Absolutely free. That's my towel. Give it
Just
back.
pay shipping and handling, $19.99.
Just pay shipping and handling.
And that'll be all.
So order Zoo books now and send learning and fun to a child you love.
We're gonna sell you OxyClean.
No, I'm gonna dart these guys before they really get off the rails.
I saw this boat in half.
Say goodnight, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.